In this video, I'm going to help you be much more effective in addressing your problems or issues in your life by helping you uncover the childhood memories that are the root cause of these problems and issues, so you'll know what you need to tap on. I'm going to show you 3 different methods, and one of them is an advanced method that at the end of the video, I'm actually going to do a guided process that you can use over and over again anytime you need to identify a root cause memory. My name is Stefan Gonik. I'm an expert EFT practitioner, trainer, and soulmate attraction mentor from EFTalive.com. Now, when we try to address any kind of problems or life issues that we have in our life, what we really need to do is identify these root cause memories, usually from childhood, that cause the life issue. So an example would be, let's say I have a really hard time saying no or having boundaries, right? Well, what could be the source of that? Well, let's say I had a father who was very, domineering and got angry at me and, never let me say no or stand up for myself. And I felt like, I had to always do whatever he wanted. Then as a result of these many childhood experiences, I'm now as an adult, I'm gonna have a hard time saying no when somebody wants me to do something, right? They're gonna ask me to do something and I'm gonna go right back to, my experiences with my father. And therefore, I'm going to go, okay, I don't really want to do it, but I don't feel like I'm able to say no. So that'd just be one example. So any issues that we have in our life come from these childhood experiences. So the most important thing is then to be able to find those memories. And we're going to talk about 3 ways to do that. Now, the first way is the simplest way, and you always want to start here because if this works, boom, you got it, right? So the first thing to do is, if we encounter some challenging situation in our life that, that happens over and over again, so that's what we think of as a life issue or some problem area in our life, the first question to ask ourselves is, what does this remind me of from my childhood? Now, it may be some memories that are just like the adult memory, or in the case where the example I gave you is actually a little bit more subtle, because we weren't allowed to say no as a child, and therefore I cannot say no as an adult either, right? So the connection is, the thing that caused us to have the difficulty. But sometimes, if you just say, "What does this remind me of from my childhood?" It'll just jump out at you. It's like, okay, good. So now I know what I need to heal. Now, if that doesn't work, there's 2 other methods. One that is kind of standard EFT way of doing it. And then there's this more advanced way that I use for my prior training in something called body-oriented Gestalt Therapy. So we had this method and that approach that is super effective for, getting in touch with these young memories that are the source of whatever the challenging situation is. So we're going to end with that. And like I said, I'm going to do a whole guided process so you can pick a problem and we'll help you get in touch with the memory. So the second method, which is kind of the typical EFT way of doing it, is you think of an example of, the problematic part of your life, where you think of an example of experiencing it, either something that happened recently, or you just imagine a scenario where you would experience it, and you start feeling those feelings. And then you just start tapping on the feelings you're having now. Not with the goal of healing the issue right away, because that's not going to be sufficient. You might feel a little better, but since you haven't addressed the root cause, the issue is really still there, and it'll keep coming back. But what you do is, you want to tap on the feelings you're having in that experience, that challenging experience, from this place of just sort of being open to a memory coming up. So, if I am a situation, so back to the first example, somebody's asked me to do something, I really don't want to do it, but I don't feel like I can say no, I might tap on, even though I don't feel like I can say no, and maybe there's fear involved, right? So I'm scared to say no, even though I feel like I'm scared to say no. I deep and profoundly love and accept myself 3 times, and then I'm scared to say no, scared to say no. Again, we're not trying to heal the issue yet, but rather by tapping on the feelings, sometimes the memory will just pop up. And actually, most EFT practitioners will tend to do it that way if they can't, just through asking questions, get at the source of it. They'll say, well, let's just do some tapping for a while, and if any memory pops up, let me know, right? So that'd be a typical thing. So now let's get into the third advanced method, which is really cool. So the way this works is it uses our bodily experience of the problem area as the doorway to our memory. And there's a particular procedure you follow in order to do that. Okay. Now, rather than describe the procedure, what we're going to do is I'm going to lead you through it. So the first step that I'd like you to do is to think of some scenario that you're having difficulty with in your life, like the hard to say no one, or whatever it might be for you. You know, just think of some problem area in your life that you want to be able to address with EFT, and you don't know what the source is. You don't know what happened to you as a child that created this problem for you. Okay, and then once you pick this problem area, you then want to think of, like in the second case, you want to think of either a recent time it happened, or you want to just imagine that scenario that would be challenging for you. Okay, so if you need a moment to do this, pause the video until you come up with it. So you just kind of like close your eyes and either remember a recent time or imagine the scenario, and pause the video until you got that. Okay, so here we are. Now we're going to do it. So starting from that place, as you remember or imagine the scenario, the first step is to notice, you're going to have some sort of emotional reactions, right? Is you want to notice where in your body you're feeling your negative reactions. Often it's in the torso. It might be, in your lower stomach, or it might be in your upper stomach, or it might be in your solar plexus, or it might be in your chest, or it might be in your throat, or it might be in your jaw. It could be in your arms. It can be anywhere in your body. And we all experience everything in our life in our body. If you just notice, if you just pay attention, you'll notice that, no matter what's going on, I feel it in my body. So the first step is, as you kind of remember what happened or imagine that difficult scenario, notice where you're feeling in your body. So go ahead and do that right now. Just notice where you're feeling it in your body. If there's more than one place, that's okay too. Okay, so once you have that, the next step is to get in touch with exactly what it feels like physically. So normally with a client, I would say, okay, you've located where you feel it. Let's say it's in the solar plexus. I'll say, okay, how big is it? And specifically, what does it feel like in your solar plexus? So I know you feel something in your solar plexus, but what does it feel like exactly? Does it feel like a tight band? Does it feel prickly? Does it feel electrical? Does it feel hot? Does it feel cold? Does it feel like a sinking feeling? Any of these kinds of things. You want to get more specific as to exactly what it feels like physically. Okay? So you want to kind of get in touch with it for yourself. Like, how would you describe this to yourself, since I'm not with you in person, right? So just describe it to yourself. Like, I feel this, this gnarly ball in my stomach, or I feel this, this hot feeling in my upper chest, up into my throat, or I feel this knot in my throat, or something like that. Whatever it is, get more specific as to what it feels like physically. This will help you get in touch with your bodily experience better. Okay, so once you have that, then also notice what emotions you're feeling in this difficult situation, right? And just notice what they all are. Is it maybe you're feeling scared, or hurt, or sad, or angry, or shame, or whatever your feelings are, right? Just notice what the feelings are. Okay, now there also may be a thought or belief that seems to go with this, right? Like the belief might be, like that hard to say no thing. It's not okay for me to say no, or whatever it is. Now this part is optional. Having a thought or belief is optional. If you have one, great. If you don't have one, don't worry about it. The bodily experience and the emotions are what's really important. Okay, now this next step is the step that's going to help you get in touch with the memory. And it's important that you follow my directions and try not to think about it. So here's what you're going to do. Keeping your attention on where you feel it in your body and what it feels like in that location of your body, and the emotions you're having, and the thought, if there is one. Let go of the present day experience, but then, without trying to use your mind to figure out anything at all, just be open and receptive to a young memory popping into your head. Don't reach for it. Don't try and figure it out. Just wait for it to come to you. So just keep your attention on what it feels like in your body and the emotions that you're feeling with it. Thought, if there is one. Just be open and receptive to a memory pop into your head. Okay. Now, some people, this will be very quick. They would have already had the memory before I even finished describing everything. Some people it takes a little longer. If you need to pause the video and just stay with it longer, that's perfectly fine. But this method will help you get in touch with these young memories. Okay? It's really important, though, to not try and figure it out. As soon as you try and figure it out, like if you ask yourself, well, and what does this remind me of from childhood, you've just blocked it. Okay, this is a right brain process, what I'm leading you through, or what I just led you through. Trying to figure things out is a left brain process. They're not compatible with each other. So as soon as you try and figure it out or try and reach for it, you're switching the other side of the brain and you just blocked it from working. If you did do that, just rewind the video and do this again. And just stay where you're just feeling your bodily experience and the emotions and the negative thought, if you have one. And again, without any thinking, figuring out, just let the memory pop into your head, just comes up. Now, assuming a memory did come up, you're going to have one of two experiences. One of them is that the memory, the memory will be very obvious in how it's connected to your life issue. Like an example I gave you, right? So if my client or if you had this experience where you remembered your dad yelling at you and not letting you stand up for yourself and say no, then the connection would be very clear, be very obvious between the problem area, the issue, and the early experience. Sometimes a memory will pop up where you kind of go, what does that memory have to do with this issue? Right? It's like, it makes no sense at all. No sense at all. Well, in my experience, even though the connection is not obvious, in fact, it may be really hard to even see what the connection is at all, I've learned that if you go with it anyway and you heal that memory, by the end of healing that memory, the connection will become clear. Right? If the memory came up through this process that I just led you through, then it's a very high chance that it is connected to the problem that you're trying to address. And just for whatever reason, the connection is not yet obvious. But if you heal it, it'll become obvious. And you go, Or you'll just heal it and then you'll check to see, okay, now how intense is my issue? And you'll notice that it dropped down. Like doing that helped it make it better. Helped make the life issue or problem better. So that by definition must be connected, right? If I heal this memory and my life issue is better, then it must have been one of the sources of that issue. So, anyway, you can come back over and over again to use this process anytime you want to identify a root cause, childhood memory. Oh, one other complication is that sometimes you'll do this process and what will come to you is an adult memory rather than a childhood memory. Okay, so here's the thing. That's a pretty normal thing. That's why I use the words, wait for a young memory to pop into your head. But sometimes even when I say that, an adult memory comes. If that happens, not a problem. That's not going to be the source, right? Our source is going to be from childhood. So you just simply rewind the video and do it again. And just say a young memory. Just listen to my words. Let a young memory pop into your head. And that intention will help get an earlier one. Okay, so that you'll be more likely to get one from childhood. So you just want to keep doing the same process over and over again until you get down to a childhood memory. And it usually doesn't take more than, 2 tries, 3 at the most, but usually it doesn't take many to do that. All right, so I hope this was helpful. If it was, it would really help me and other people on YouTube to find this video if you click on the like button. You're very welcome to subscribe to my channel to get more useful videos like this on making your life better with EFT. I also have a free ebook on my website at eftalive.com called Change Your Beliefs, Change Your Life. It teaches you how to use EFT to change negative or limiting beliefs into positive ones. And followed by a whole series of newsletters with practical applications of EFT to enhance your life. In any case, keep tapping and I'll see you on the next one.